In this video, we are going to go over section 9.3, first order linear differential equation. The goal of this section is to find the solution to the first order differential equation using a integrating factor. So earlier in chapter 9, we also learned how to deal with the first order differential equation, but we used the technique of separation of variables. Now, not all equations are separable by a variable. In other words, I cannot put x and the y on either side. So let me give you a quick example. So let's say we have an equation that looks something like this. 3xy prime plus y equal 12x squared. And let's say we approach in last section 9.2, try to use separation of variable. So in other words, this one is in other words dy dx. And then I try to put all the y on this left hand side and then all the x on the right hand side. Then what happens is if I want to move that 3x to the other side, then I have to divide 3x here, divide by 3x here, and divide by 3x. Well, first term disappear, and nicely we have dy dx. However, the middle term still have 3x, and the last term I end up having 4x, reduced down to 4x. But this is not separated completely because I have a y term and x term still here, and then I cannot really put it into just y dy and then x dx term. So at this point, we're kind of stuck. So we cannot integrate it both sides by using the separation of equation. So the alternate method is called using the integrating factor. So I'm gonna note to myself, this method is used when we cannot separate the variable. Okay, so in other words, what we are going to do, we are going to do some trick to multiply each side of the equation by a special term called the integrating factor. And then that formula is right over here. The integrating factor that we are going to multiply both sides will be e raised to the f of x dx in the equation in a standard form. Then once you multiply, then equation is now integratable, so you can solve and then find the y function. Okay, and then another extension is this part over here. This will result the product rule. So we are going to actually observe all these observations while we were working on each steps. So let's go through step 1 through 5 one more time, and then we'll jump onto the example and you'll see those steps more clearly. First, your equation has to be always in this format. So if your equation is not in the form, you have to put the derivative function plus f function y equal to g of x function. We are going to compute this integrating factor, okay, so that we can multiply each side of the function. See here, multiply both sides of the standard form by the integrating factor so that your equation is integratable. Your left side will always be the product rule. That's the fact. And then so that you can, if you integrated both sides, that derivative disappears. So you now nicely have integrating factor and y. And on the right hand side, you have something that you can integrate. And then you can divide it by I of x to solve for y. So let's jump onto the first problems so that you can see clearly.